Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again as the AAPG YPTT continues its monthly virtual series called Get to Know. This month, our feature presenter is AAPG LACR Vice President, Mr. Xavier Moonan. So, without further ado, we invite you to sit back, relax, and let us get to know Xavier. So, Xavier, you could take over.
Sure. Yeah. Good there.
Yeah, you could just put it on full screen and we'll be good.
Should I switch on video as well or no?
Up to you.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, start the video. Okay, what up? All right, yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, folks. So yes, my name is Xavier Moonan. I'm a geologist, rock lover, explorer. I'm very much involved with the AAPG, and just want to thank the Young Professional Chapter in Trinidad for having me to share some stuff from my career thus far. And yeah, my career as a young professional, because this is actually, I will no longer be a young professional in about 2 days' time. Um, so here's in a nutshell how I got into the oil business and why I love geology on the whole. As Jonathan said, I'm the current vice president for the AAPG Latin America Caribbean region, and I chair the AAPG regions committee, and I work as a senior geoscientist with touchstone exploration. And I gave a similar talk at the Latin America and Caribbean Region Virtual Conference 2020, which was hosted by the AAPG Trinidad and Tobago Young Professional Chapter. Next. Yeah. Right. So I actually, from a very, very, very young age, was always inquisitive, always wanting to explore. My dad was a geography teacher, and so he basically took me out with him and the rest of my family everywhere. By the time I was like 3 years old, I probably went to every single corner of the country, and Tobago, and Barbados, and I think Jamaica too. And so I've always been like just looking at things and just enjoying and taking in the environment. I grew up in the town of Pinal, which happens to also be an oil field, which I hold close to my heart. And in Pinal itself, I mean, like I would very much cycle around the area and actually come across pumping jacks and wellheads all over, and I was always interested into what these things were, and my dad always taught me about them. I'm a diehard Jurassic Park fan from very, very early. I wanted to find dinosaur bones and stuff, and later found out that we don't really have dinosaur bones, probably some large mammals and stuff, but no signs of dinosaur bones in this country as yet. So during those years, you know, I was born in 1984. By the time I wanted to choose a career path, I was sort of divided between becoming a pilot and or becoming a geologist. And around the time of 9/11, I was entering sixth form in secondary school, and I decided, okay, yeah, I'll pursue the path of becoming a geologist. And in fact, I already knew I wanted to be a paleontologist. I told my kindergarten teacher that, but she didn't really believe it was a that I had that potential. I don't think I do. But anyways, I continued pursuing oil and gas. And growing up in Trinidad, our economy is basically based on oil and gas. So the fluctuations in the prices have a direct and indirect effect on everyone's livelihood, whether they're in the oil sector or not. And so as you can see, I'm just plotting on here the West Texas Intermediate oil price. It's not necessarily the oil price that we could actually sell our oil locally in Trinidad at, but it's a good reference measure to know what was happening over a long period of time. And these general ups and downs are stuff that were felt in most markets across the world. So the oil price was, generally pretty low throughout all of that time, even when I went into university. Just hovering around $30 a barrel or so back then. Keep in mind, yes, inflation, costs and stuff has affected the price of how much a barrel is worth then versus now. But I knew that I love exploring, and I knew that that people basically pursue and they explore for oil and gas. And so maybe that might be a means by which I could fulfill this sort of passion I have. So never stop exploring, fuel your passion. And I enrolled at UWI Mona in Jamaica. And that was a pretty interesting experience because I was the first time I was away from my family for a long period of time. Had to literally do everything for myself, and that was it was kind of a shock. I mean, but it was cool. It was fun at the same time. Made lots of friends there, lots of colleagues who I still keep in touch with, and that's a key thing in your career, right? You always try to build relationships because you really never know where these relationships will go, but they go a long, long, long way, right? So to the point where when I graduated from UWI Mona, in out of my class, I mean, there were lots of students from all sorts of nationalities, bulk being Jamaican. There were about 15 or so Trinidadians in the class. And really, out of that group of 15 Trinidadians, just about two actually went into oil and gas and are still in oil and gas in some way or the other, me being one of them. I there's it showed that there's so much other means by which you can apply geosciences, right? So I've got colleagues who are into seismology, volcanology, hydrology, urban planning, you name it, right? It's all kinds of things, and geology is very applicable to all of those different fields. So I luckily, remember I told you I wanted to be a paleontologist, right? So the shock came when I actually went to um, interview for a GSTT bursary. So the GSTT is the Geological Society of Trinidad and Tobago, and I had just completed, I think I just completed my first year or first semester or something, and they were offering this bursary, so I went for it. And in the interview, they asked me what I wanted what sort of geology I wanted to do when I graduated. And I said, well, I want to be a paleontologist. And they told me that, well, there aren't any dinosaur bones and stuff in Trinidad, and you'll probably find yourself looking at these microscopic shells and stuff, and you've got to be pretty determined to have a career in that. And it kind of burst my bubble a little bit, but I guess it was an introduction to micropaleontology, so I took it in positive light, right? And eventually, I applied for an undergraduate internship at Petrotrin, and that's actually where I interacted with and met with a bunch of folks from the Geological Services lab over there and got a greater appreciation of micropaleontology. I was given a project. Actually, funny story. I was in this in this sort of internship. They gathered everybody into one big ballroom. Each table basically had folks from different careers and stuff. And on the geology table, there were a bunch of other folks who were pursuing like petroleum geoscience at UWE, St. Augustine. So I went and sat at the table, and they told us that there's a project for one student um, at a place called Santa Flora in southern Trinidad. And the project is basically a standalone project. You have to do the entire project by yourself. And so they said, well, who's willing to do that? And I think there were about 7 of us around the table. And I don't know what really drove me to, but I just felt I should put up my hand, and I put up my hand. And they told me that there was a car waiting outside, and it's going to take me a time for it to meet my mentors and stuff down there. And that was it. That project actually introduced me to everything. I was taken to a guy by the name of Lennox Alhu in Santa Flora. He was the head of drilling and recompletions. And he was a geologist by background. He studied in UWE Mona as well. So he had his introductions and reassured me, yes, he studied in Mona. He knows what it's like. Do I know Irvin Hall? He stayed there, etc. And then he said, well, okay, do you know any sedimentology? I said, no. Do you know any structural geology? It's like, no, I just finished first year. All I know is like some minerals and rocks and how to, walk along beach walks and that sort of thing, right? Um, and he said, okay, no problem. He brought out, he called out his younger staff members and stuff, right? And he basically assigned each one of them to teach me a different topic. So one was going to teach me how to read wireline logs, well logs. Another one was going to show me how to do structure maps. Another one, and so on. And on that project, that first summer project, as we call it, right? That actually made me totally fall in love with geology, searching for oil, coming up with prospects and stuff. And yeah, it actually expanded and became my thesis in the end. And still during that time, the oil price was starting to climb, but it was, it was steadily climbing. And so there was a lot of activity going on in Santa Flora at that time. And it was pretty exciting that, you see there was all these meetings about wells and wells going down or new wells being drilled, and lots of obscenities and stuff being said, but that was the whole atmosphere. It was really fun, and I totally enjoyed it. And I came out with this expectation that, I've done this really cool project. I've come up with prospects. I've drawn my maps and my correlations and stuff. I presented it, got a great degree and stuff from UWE. And I think I'll apply to companies, and well, it should be smooth sailing, right? But then the oil price went back down, and I literally applied to like every single company I could think of, and no one was hiring at the time. So I was actually just browsing through the newspaper just as soon as I came back to Trinidad, and there was this ad for an operations manager at Geoservices. And so I searched up Geoservices, and they said, oh, they're some mud logging company and they do geotechnical stuff. And it's like, this sounds interesting. So I applied for it, and they called me and they said, well, Mr. Moonan, you clearly do not fit the criteria for the role of operations manager. However, we have some positions available that you do qualify for. Would you be willing to come in for an interview? And I said, I consider it. Yes, I'll come for the interview. And so I went in. It was a pretty good group of folks. And then the next thing they told me that was that they're doing work for a company called Talisman Energy, who is drilling some exploration wells out in the Rio Claro area. And they'll train me in anything I need to know with respect to mud logging. And basically, I could be out on the rig from as early as 1 week from now. And lo and behold, it was so. So I took up the job. I went out to the site and met lots of folks out there. And I just took in everything. I wanted to learn everything about the rig, everything about the operations. And I mean, there are folks who, I mean, you come from the university with a very technical degree, right? You go to the site, and obviously, not everyone is technical. There's a lot of very intensive work out there, but you gain a greater appreciation of everything from just listening to people and hearing it from their perspective, hear their thoughts on it, and trust me, you could learn something from anybody, right? Experience is invaluable, and you once you get that experience, it could be applied anywhere, anytime. And I just thought that I'm going to try to learn everything that I can from everybody that I interact with out here, because that's going to make me a more all-rounded individual. And when you learn from people's experiences, well, that's actually a lot easier than going and picking up a book and learning about it, right? You, they give you in a nutshell what they experience at some point in time, and they synthesize it and bring out the key points for you to learn from, right? And that's like the early days of how I got into like networking, and you realize that you learn quite a lot from people from just actually sitting down and having a talk with them, right? Just at the well, we at any point in time there were like 80 to 100 people working all around the rig. Everyone was staying out there. There was sleeping quarters and stuff, and we all interacted with each other quite often in the galley area and stuff, and just talk to everybody and hear what their jobs are, what their roles are, and then you kind of understand, well, where do you want to be in the future from there. So I worked with geoservices on these 4 exploration wells that they drilled out there, and trust me, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And that was good for me, not so good for Talisman. They spent a lot of money, but I actually learned like all sorts of things and everything that could have gone wrong. You learn from when things go wrong. So right after that, I had applied for like jobs again. The oil price is starting to go back up. Companies were hiring again. And actually, I came off the rig, and within a 1 week, I had 5 interviews with service companies and operators, and it was really cool to, I mean, feel kind of valued as well too, right? But what I really appreciated from my interview in Petrotrin was that Victor Youngon, who was the manager who was interviewing me, he said, well, what do you think you can bring to the table from your experience out there with geoservices? And I said, well, on those wells, I have learned what not to do. I've seen a lot of things going wrong, and I think I know what not to do. And he laughed at that, and well, he gave me the job, so I guess it was a good answer, right? But yeah, so I got this role at Petrotrin, um, Exploration and Geophysics Department now, and I at first I mean I was happy to be working for an operator, to be working towards proposing wells and stuff, right? Which is what I was doing in my undergrad project, right? Um, and but and it was also good to actually have like a daily job, eight to four, basically kind of routine instead of working out on the rig, which is pretty tough and stuff. Um, but at the same time, I wasn't really sure if I liked working on exploration at the time because my undergrad thesis was really based in a development setting. And there was a lot of activity, and I mean, you're mapping things and drilling basically week after week, right? So there's a lot of quick turnaround period for all of these projects, right? And so when I took up this job, I went and met with Victor Youngman, who was the manager at the time, and he introduced me to the other staff members. And that's when I met my mentor, Anthony Ramlakan Singh. And then he was telling me, well, basically these exploration projects, well, they go on for like, you know, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Maybe then we'll drill one of these exploration wells. And I was like, I don't really know if this is what I want to do, right? I remember actually going and telling him that. And then he told me, he said, Xavier, if you think about it, yeah, learn from Anthony, and in 2 weeks' time, if you don't want to work in this department and you want to work in the development department or something, we could see what arrangements we can make. So I was like, okay. So I went back, and every day I sat down with Anthony, and we started working on these projects. And yeah, by the third day, I was sure this is what I wanted to do. It was pretty interesting and intense to learn from Mr. Ramlakan Singh, and it was really good fun to basically see data sets from all across the Southern Basin, and where the joint venture companies and stuff were working, and that was pretty interesting to kind of step out from your comfort zone and just keep challenging yourself. So I worked on those exploration projects throughout Trinidad, North Coast, East Coast, West Coast, South Coast, Southern Basin, Central Range. And we worked with the multinationals in those joint ventures. I was encouraged by Curtis Archie, a geologist in Trinidad at the time, to join the Geological Society of Trinidad and Tobago, and I ran for the position of director, and that's where I started like getting involved in giving back now. So I thought that all these folks who didn't really have to or have any obligation to really teach me or mentor me or encourage me to learn more or to be more inquisitive and stuff. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to dispense their experiences and knowledge to me. So this is my turn now to start to give back and to teach the next generation. And yeah, I had some pretty cool experiences. Went out on seismic ships and stuff at this time. Did some 3D surveys. It was pretty good. Um, I I then started thinking about, well, maybe after working for a couple of years with the company, I should start to think about like what sort of master's degree I would like to do to, just further my education and also to kind of firm up what sort of niche per se within geology I really like. And I was pretty sure that I wanted to do something along the lines of structure. So I saw that there were some schools in New Zealand, some in the US, and also Leeds in the UK. One of my colleagues, Samuel Rapper, who's actually in the picture there with me on the boat leaving the seismic Polacus seismic ship, he actually he did his exploration in geophysics masters at Leeds, and And interestingly, there's a bunch of folks in Trinidad who actually did masters at Leeds. So after reviewing the program and stuff, I was pretty sure I wanted to go there. And then there was actually a crash in the oil price, and all the exploration projects were like stalled and stuff. We were still doing projects, but there was like no sign of, any assurity that any exploration wells will be drilled in any time soon. And so I decided at that time I would go and do a master's in structural geology. And I decided that on that master's, what would be helpful is that because you have to do a thesis for the master's, if I do a thesis with data from Trinidad, even from Trinidad itself, it could then contribute back to the company and also to the knowledge within Trinidad itself. So I pursue the researching the Piano Barco oil field with its full and thrust belt and the deep water heroic turbidites and stuff. And did some pretty cool modeling and stuff with it, map it in 3D, unfold it and stuff with structural restoration work and simulate turbidites on it. And that was pretty cool. So another message I put out here is one must find ways to remain ahead of the curve, be dynamic, and be relevant. And I didn't really think it through at the time, but actually doing these sort of workflows with old data sets, using new technologies and new techniques, and actually creating something that's, a really great product, which actually stimulates your mind to continue to find more things. So that project actually became a basis by which when I came back to Trinidad, continued to expand that project across the field. Because I am not part of the field, not the entire field. So it's a big field. And I came back and continued working with Tony Ramlack and Singh on that, and we ended up mapping the entire Bar or oil field itself. So when I came back and I continued working, I looked for other challenging projects and stuff, and picked up more mentorship roles within the company. I did some well side geology work and stuff offshore, Soldado, just about changing scenery and stuff, and it was pretty good fun. My lecturer at Leeds, he actually encouraged me to submit my thesis to AAPG. And I really doubted that they would have actually accepted it and stuff. And he said, no, it's a pretty good project. He really wants me to submit it. And so I submitted it, and yeah, they accepted it, and it was accepted to the ICE conference in Milan. And Petrian was actually quite happy about that, so I got sponsored to go and present this. And I journeyed all the way to Milan with my posters and stuff that were printed in the cartography department in Petrotrin, and it was pretty good. I remember I asked corporate group in Petrotrin if I could get like a pin or something to just show my company brand, my logo, the logo and stuff. And I got a call in the afternoon from the secretary of the vice president of, I think, exploration and something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be in like so much trouble and stuff or something. No, I did something bad. And they told me to come to his office. And Steve Baldosing was his name. And he actually gave me an envelope. And he said, yeah, open it. I've got this thing for you. So I thought it was like, some sort of warning letter, I'm in real trouble or something. I open the envelope, and it's a Petrotrin tie, like a real official one. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. So I went and I presented it at this conference, and that conference really blew my mind. It was a really big conference. I totally enjoyed it. I got to meet Emiliano Muti, the turbidite man himself, and it was just an amazing experience. And just to see how the conference was run, the 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 displays, the simulations that they had out for people, the talks themselves. I got to meet so many folks from all over that I just thought that, you know, stuff like this should also be emulated by the local geological society here. And so I brought some of those ideas back as well, right? To do geo tours, to have more field trips, more talks, do um, all kinds of just cool things to engage folks more. And with that, I started. I was nominated to run for the GSCT president at that point in time. And I joined the AAPG Latin America group as a delegate in the House of Delegates at that time as well too. We had a sort of general upward trend in the oil price at this point in time. So companies were continuing to drill, to the investment into seismic and other detailed sets of work was happening at this point in time. And my career was kind of like taking off in that sort of direction. And I got a job offer at that point in time with a company called Centrica Energy, a British-based company, who was a joint venture partner as well with Petrotrin. And they were exploring off the North Coast area, north of Trinidad and Tobago. And it wasn't necessarily where I thought my career path would go, but I thought that, you know, there's so much I've learned about the Southern Basin and stuff, and maybe I should step into a different basin altogether and try something different. Plus, I know that the data sets that they've got in those basins based on tectonics were of a different quality altogether, put it that way. That you could do a lot more with that data set than you could from the onshore data sets. And so I challenged myself to become a geophysicist in a sense, geoscientist, so to say, and try to step out of that comfort zone and try that new path. So I leave you with this sort of statement: to appreciate your mentors, listen to them, and build from their foundation, right? Um, so I always appreciate the folks who I have met along my career, and I've learned from hundreds of folks. Um, and career paths aren't straight lines, right? There are like multiple routes to get there. And I knew at some point I wanted to be drilling exploration wells and just enjoying the fact that you can do great geological work and lead to some success, right? So I took up that challenge with Centrica at that time. Got more involved with the AAPG, worked with folks to encourage them to do a geoscience technology workshop in Trinidad. That was the first workshop of its kind done in this part of the region here. And it was very successful. And after that, I just kept involved with the AAPG and started doing more outreach and stuff at my high school and that sort of thing. I also got into lecturing at the University of the West Indies at that point in time too. And yeah, well, more stability and stuff in the entire environment. Basically, I got married at this point in time as well. So opportunities are everywhere, and you never know if you don't ask. And you need to meet people to ask, right? So networking is great. I was I then hosted. We were well, the GSCT was offered the opportunity to like host this conference called the Caribbean Geological Conference, and we didn't host a conference like this in a long time. And I remember Krishna Prasad and Helena Innes, they were, I think, president and incoming president of the GSCT at that point in time, and they told me, yeah, they think we can do it. And I've never actually been to a Caribbean Geological Conference before this, so I didn't even know like what to expect or what it should be like. But they told me to, you can create a vision of what you want it to be and just go for it. Just try something different and let's see how it turns out. And so yeah, we ran a really successful conference. There was lots of people there. We got all the students and stuff sponsored and engaged. And then there was and we got that conference in just before the oil price started to crash again. So as you can see, the oil price climbed pretty high up from that $30 mark when I started my career, and now it's starting to go back down to that sort of level again. Right? I see a question here. Should I take a question? What advice do you have for recent graduates during these times? It's coming up, right? So at that point in time, I helped establish the engage the students and stuff, young professionals. There were lots of folks coming out of school during this crash, and companies obviously were either laying off folks or just not hiring, right? And so we encouraged the formation of a young professional chapter at that point in time to just to keep folks engaged and do things like this that helps to give the next generation ideas as to how to survive in this time. And just after the conference, there was a drilling rig that was just operating out in the oil field, and I happened to see it one day and just called up the company and asked them, well, is it possible to actually come and see the rig and stuff? And they said, yeah, we bring some students and stuff as well too. So we got all the students geared up in PPE and everything and went to the site. And lo and behold, that actually turned out to be first AAPG visit to an active drilling rig ever in 100 years of existence, right? So it's pretty cool, and I decided to also get more involved in like writing and publications and stuff. So there was a lot of really good areas I've studied, and I've been exposed to different parts of the science and stuff. And so I decided to like put some of that down in black and white and publish it. So yeah, hosted rig visits and stuff. Did some pretty cool modeling out in NCMA, North Coast Marine area, mapping those islands and stuff that used to exist and thing. And yeah, during that crash, we took some chances and stuff. We had a baby at that point in time. We also bought a house, and then Centrica actually sold its assets in Trinidad, and yeah, then I was actually out of a job for some time. Yeah, so that was a bit um, a bit worrisome. Yeah, it must be a bit worrisome when you lose your job per se. But I was actually lecturing part-time at the University of the West Indies before. And so they asked me to come on full-time with them. So that sort of complemented it right there. And obviously it's not the same, right? Lecturing is very different from your day-to-day work in an oil company, but I was able to bring something, I guess, to UE that I thought was a bit unique, that I've got all of this experience now from the industry, and I know things that the industry actually wants to achieve or find solutions for. And university has the means of doing those things because you got folks who are dedicated at studying particular um, topics and theses and that sort of thing. So I got a chance to actually have time to research things more, right? And to try alternative things, new technologies and stuff that you just don't have time in industry for, because industry is usually like you map something which is fit for purpose because you got really tight timelines and you just don't have the time to perfect it, right? But at university, you got a chance to actually do more of that. And at the same time, keep imparting knowledge to the next generation. So that for me was quite fulfilling. And I really enjoyed that time there. And because of the researching and stuff, I started to step out into other things like drone mapping, and collaborating with the geophysics folks at UE to do like seismic tomography surveys and stuff, and then just using those two things to apply it to areas where we could actually have an impact on the country. So we started like mapping some of the mud volcanoes, which potentially could erupt and affect people's lives and stuff. I then served as APG Latin America Treasurer, coordinated another GTW in Guyana, which was really, really great and successful. And later on, coordinated the GTW with Suriname. And another message I'll leave you here with is that so you may be rejected 100 times. I think I heard this from Gretchen, I think, in Argentina. You may be rejected 100 times, but all you need is one job offer. And so I know that I was building my sort of research background at this point in time, and maybe some of those things would help to um, push me forward as an individual, and also to just make me more and more relevant for what companies may be searching out for in the future. So try and try again. Always be an optimist. You would never find hydrocarbons if you're not. So that's one thing you definitely have to be out there. So I just kept trying, and I got a chance to do some consulting work with Touchstone. I was offered a great opportunity within the AAPG to present at a geoscience technology workshop in Beijing. That was really fun. And I took up the offer with Touchstone to begin working on the Ottawa block. So I kind of came full circle because the Ottawa block is where Touchstone was searching for again, the deep water Herrera turbidites, which I studied as part of my master's and stuff. And they're within fold belts. So again, quite relevant. So something that I just decided to do for a master's thesis, and which led to greater mapping and detail more mapping in Petrotrin. And now I've come full circle to actually study those things again, but apply more technologies and in an area where it really hasn't been drilled or fully understood. So so far we've been able to drill 2 successful exploration wells to date. 2 ones on the way right now. At the same time, I continue to give back to the community. I do disaster preparedness work with the ODPM, mud volcano monitoring. We assess the damage of the low zero area, and those things are really I you won't believe that actually those things really I take to heart. Like I really I really feel for folks who are affected by these things. And so I tried to find a means to find a solution, or at least to make them more aware of what the problem really is. If they understand it, maybe they would they wouldn't be as afraid of the issues, right? So in case any more volcanoes, the community is just meeting them and teaching them about what this feature really is. It helps, and I think it goes a long way. And I'm happy that now that the area is actually a lot more prepared for mud volcano eruptions and stuff than they were before, where the actual community actually talks to each other virtually every day, and they are always on the lookout, and they know what sort of features and signs to look out for. And they always message me and keep me posted as to if they see anything. So I also have here like some little videos and stuff, and these are actually not mine. They're actually um, by some of my students and students that I've mentored and stuff. And it's great to see that they've taken an idea or something that I've tried to push as like, I think it's worth mapping, or I think it's worth investigating, or I think it's worth trying something different, and they've taken it and actually run with it, and they run with the ideas and create these great graphics, which actually help explain the problems and help find more solutions for other folks. So I'm really proud when I see students that I've mentored and stuff actually um, create something that they can contribute back as well. Um, so I ran for AAPG Secretary Global. I lost it, but not giving up, right? So I ran for Vice President Latin America, which I currently hold. And during this COVID period, we've been doing like the virtual field trips, coming up with research symposia for Latin America, and just promoting geo awareness, because a lot more people are engaged on social media and stuff now because of this time. And so just to teach people about their country, the environment, just the amazing geology and stuff. And you don't have to have a unique idea, basically. You can read about what has been applied in other places. And you can use the APG bulletin, the Explorer, Search and Discovery. There are lots of stuff out there that's been tried elsewhere. And maybe you can actually apply it to where you are as well too, right? And so I'll just leave you with this last slide, which says, discovery consists of seeing what everybody has seen and thinking what nobody has thought. And that's a picture of our flare out there at Cascadura gas discovery out in Ottawa, in a place where no one thought that there could be gas or there could be anything significant. Yeah. I think I'll take some questions and stuff now, yes.
Okay, Zav, thanks a lot. So we'll move on to the questions now. We had some questions submitted before when the participants registered. So I'll start with those, and if any of the participants have any questions right now, they can use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. So the first question, when and how did you get yourself out of your low points in your career?
When and how? Okay, well, I think one of the low points, well, I think one of the first low points was when I first graduated, right? I literally remember sending emails, sending physical letters to literally every single company associated with oil and gas in Trinidad, right? And then you get your rejection letters, right? And that's pretty tough to deal with. And I just didn't give up. I just kept thinking, well, there must be something that I will be qualified for, I will get through to. I did not. It didn't prolong long enough to the point where I thought of doing further education at the time, although that's an option. But I saw other opportunities where um, so I applied for that crazy role at Geo Services for operations manager, and you never know. Not every single um, opportunity is actually advertised everywhere, right? So sometimes you need to knock on doors that you don't think that there's an opportunity, and there might be an opportunity actually. And that actually led to my first job. So um, just you have to just keep trying at that. And also in this time, you know what I mean, it's it's a time when there's a lot of folks who have been looking for work for some time, and a lot of folks who are experienced and they've been laid off, right? So you have to keep trying to be relevant and bring something different to the table that other folks aren't. And that's the harsh reality, right? It's so we're all in a race together, and it's who wins that race actually gets the job, right? So that's a harsh reality, but that's what you're up against. You have to be a little more relevant than the other person. I think the other low point in my life was when Centrica actually closed. It wasn't too bad, but I was a bit worried because I mean I had just we had a baby at the time. We had a house and stuff, and you know, you're losing your job. It's interesting to deal with, but I kept my head up that I know that at that point in time I've built enough um, experience to land something somewhere, and also I've been networking from day one, right? In this in the geological groups in the region and in Trinidad, so I knew that um, there are folks out there who would be on the lookout for me for any opportunities and stuff too. They would let me know. Same way I would let people know now if there are opportunities.
Okay. Next question. Have you ever lost the passion for what you do?
No, no. I think that I I don't think I could actually lose it. Maybe check me in the next 30 years or so, maybe. But I think I've got enough fuel in me to carry me to that, right? At least. But like I don't know. I just like to, apart from my regular work, right? If you want to define it as that, my day-to-day job, I always find all of these smaller side projects, kind of, just just investigating some outcrops with some friends, or just going and doing this small volcano stuff and thing. And all of these things are not really like related to actually what I'm working on in work, but in the grander scheme they are. And so yeah, I always keep myself busy with all these little other projects and stuff, and it helps me kind of look at things from a bigger picture perspective all the time. So there's just like you're looking at this picture right now, this huge forest, right? There's just like so much things about this whole area that you just don't know as yet, if you can't just stand back and look at it from that perspective. So I always keep myself busy with all kinds of other things. And those other projects always lead to some sort of spin-off idea or new thing to try in my actual work.
Okay, great. Next question we have. What is the most interesting geological phenomenon you have ever seen?
Interesting geological phenomenon. I think low zero takes the cake on that. I think that really blew everybody away. So when we had that earthquake in 2018 in August, right? Um, I mean, like I heard about the damage to the buildings in Port of Spain and stuff, and some folks in Philistine complained of potential liquefaction and stuff. But it's in the night when I was watching news and I saw Ivan Tulsi's drone footage, and the, I mean, when he flew up and you really got a sense of the scale of it, it was like, holy crap, this is really interesting. I was there the next day, early o'clock, with folks from the AAPG Young Professionals group, and it just blew us away. Like we were just walking around on falls throughout that whole area, sitting on falls, looking at the slicking sides and stuff. It was just amazing, amazing damage to the place as well, right? But I mean, it was just geologically so amazing to see, and and I came back there. I think the next day, and I did a walk down to the coast and saw the uplift from the beach and stuff, and that was really amazing. These tow truss kind of structures on the beach. I came back up with the farmers and stuff, and then I was about to leave. In fact, I left, and then I realized I actually left my drone by one of the farmers' houses. So I went back, and they were like all chuckling how I left my drone and stuff there. I decided to do a flyover of the whole area and did a full 3D mapping of the whole area since I was there. And I'm pretty lucky that I did that because right after that, the Ministry of Works came in and started bulldozing the road, and all of the true geological offsets and stuff of the faults were kind of lost. So low zero was a really, really interesting feature. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Right here, in the middle of that forest, basically. Probably a few more flares in the area, hopefully. Um, I don't know. I mean, I really like where I'm at right now. I love my work at Touchstone. I love the folks here. I love the fact that we're having some success and knock on wood, more success and stuff out here. And it's great to see a small company take the risks and the believe in the and that it can be done, and believe in the local folks as well too. It's great that we have a lot of local folks working in the company, and I think that by itself is a great atmosphere and everything. Great camaraderie between everybody. I I like it here. Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably be here.
Okay, great. This is a kind of funny one. Would you ever become a full-time drone pilot?
Hmm. It depends. I, well, it's really what people do with the drones, right? I mean, I probably I think I've flown 600,000 kilometers now of drone footage throughout the island. Um, so it's like, you know, multiple surveys and stuff all over the place, and it's actually fun. I really do enjoy just flying the drone and stuff, but I'm actually doing it with a greater purpose in mind that you know, we're creating stuff to lead to an interpretation or mapping the coast or getting net to gross ratios for the narrow coastline or something. Those kinds of things, right? With a purpose in mind. I think if I were to pick that up full time, I might run out of things to map. Maybe.
Okay. One more. What is the main new future skill needed for your graduates in order to meet the market needs?
Well, I think there's two things, right? It's not necessarily one. The first one is not necessarily new. It's just that because of the current situation, and in fact, you know what? I'm gonna stop saying that. Not the current situation. It's been going on for a while now, right? That people in our career paths basically are required to know more about other similar career paths, right? So we need to sort of we went from being geologists to geoscientists by merging geophysics. And we need to know more engineering and drilling engineering and petroleum engineering and reservoir engineering so we could become reserve petroleum geoscientists or something, I think like that in the end. Um, you really need to become a jack of all trades to survive and actually land good positions in this at this point in the sphere of work, right? Um, that's what a lot of companies are seeking out. Now, yes, the new thing is that some companies have gotten into more artificial intelligence kind of work, and so they require more machine learning approaches, writing of script, learn Python, learn all of those kinds of things. I don't know if those things are a bit niche as well right now because only certain areas with certain types of data sets would allow the full fruition of those types of applications. But when you see that some companies are not going to be exploring new areas going forward, that they're going to kind of shrink their core um, business and stuff. Some of those kinds of really new age technologies may not be fully realized by those companies. And it's probably good ideas. It's probably got great application, but um, if the oil age is coming to some sort of end in the next 100 years or so, then maybe some of those ideas may not necessarily be fully realized in all basins, in all fields by oil companies. So just keep that in mind. I think right now being as versatile as you can is probably the best bet.
Okay, just a couple more questions. What are your thoughts about clean energy?
Clean energy. Yeah. Well, when you say clean energy, how clean is clean energy, right? Are you talking about clean energy in Trinidad? Because clean energy in Trinidad would pretty much be restricted to the energy we get from natural gas and powering our electrical plants and stuff. I know, I mean, companies are making steps towards um, alternative energy means, but I think we're still a long ways locally to actually realize that. Um, and I think I saw today some work being done towards, or some more firm work being done towards the realization of hydrogen and stuff, towards the powering of our plants and stuff as alternative means. But yeah, still those things are still pretty much premature, right? Um, Clean energy right now is trying to move away from your coal and your oil use and stuff towards gas really. And I'm actually proud to say that as Trinidadians, we actually do use gas to produce the bulk of our electricity, which is actually pretty clean, right? In future, that might change, but this is what clean energy is right now. Um, Now, how we get that energy, how we obtain it from the ground, and how we pipe it, and how we transport it and stuff, those are means by which we could improve, right? Because I mean, we utilize a lot of gasoline charged vehicles to work these fields, to diesel and stuff to drill. The ships that transport all this LNG around the world are predominantly diesel powered and stuff, and those things could be switched out hopefully in the future. So maybe we should look at how we can um, clean our current energy sources as much as we can to have less of a footprint.
Just a couple more questions. I think you may have touched on this a little bit earlier, but what role do you see big data and machine learning playing in the future of the oil and gas exploration and production?
Yeah, so like I said, that it's a great idea, and it's great that we've got and it's great as being applied to many places around the world, but it's still really restricted to where you've got data sets that you can effectively apply it to, right? Um, I mean, let's take for instance, you've got 13,000 wells on onshore Trinidad, right? Those wells were drilled from 100 years ago to present. It's really a time-consuming process to actually load and extract every bit of information you can from just those wells to actually apply it to some sort of in these sort of new technologies. The effort and the time to actually do that would not be would not really be worth it, considering how much how much hydrocarbon do you think in the mature fields you can still extract, and can it justify the spend to um, to try to integrate all of these data sets. So when you're dealing with really vintage data sets, it's pretty tough to actually convince someone that this is the route to go with machine learning. Newer data sets, new fields, areas with great tree seismic coverage, no doubt. I mean, most of the machine learning techniques right now is really still geared towards seismic data itself. That's really the big data that can be crunched and can be looked at in different ways, right? So it's more easily and readily applied and actually cost benefiting in those areas, right? So yeah, that's probably where it's going to focus on. And considering the fact that one major player in the industry is kind of stepping away from future exploration in new areas, I think that the writing could be on the wall for some of these applications. They will stay in niche areas and niche basins where those types of data, new data, can be extracted and utilized best. So that really applies to like if you want to hit at home, Guyana Suriname basin, you can really run with it there for sure. It's great data sets. It's brand new data. It's new wells, right? Wells with all of the sort of data that you would ever want to integrate. It works best there, right? Our deep water in Trinidad, it can be utilized there. But for some of the mature fields, it's a it's a nice idea, but I don't think it's going to be cost beneficial.
Okay, and the final question now to have. How do you balance it all, your career and family life?
I've got an amazing understanding wife, right? Um, so she knows, she knows before we got married how what where my passion is, what keeps me going, what drives me and stuff. And she knows that I just like to get involved in these kinds of things and to, even outside of my work and stuff. So it is tricky, but at the same time, I think it overall works out because I mean, you've got to be you've got to be relevant to have a job. You've got to be relevant to keep a job, and having a job is probably an important factor in having a family. So to have that family and have that family happy, safe, sound, everything, you gotta have a job, right? So it's a interesting balancing act, right? Especially now that I have a 4-year-old. But I mean, so far so good. And I think my company really values what I bring to the table, and so you get a good balance from just having good managers and good people that you work with.
Okay, great. I think that's the end of all of the questions. So, on behalf of the AAPG YPTT executive, Xav, we'd just like to thank you for giving us this presentation and being part of our Get to Know series. It was a very informative talk, and I think you bestowed a lot of knowledge and information for everyone in attendance, especially recent graduates, on ways to move forward and to get themselves out there. So we just like to say thanks once again, and we hope to continue working with you in the future.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. And thanks to you all again for having me. Yeah.
So just before we close off, we are going to be playing a video on how to become an AAPG member. So for anyone who's interested, please stay and just take in the video before you leave.